Welcome to the No Budget Indie Filmcast, where we dip into the independent film universe to highlight those little films that you might not have heard about elsewhere. Will you agree with our panel, or will our panel agree with each other? Tune in to find out. I am Milo Dennison, and with me, as always, is Claire Milan.
Hello.
And Cathal Feeney.
Hello.
All right, Cathal, what's on the agenda this week?
This week, the film on the agenda is called Welcome Home. It's a Norwegian film directed by I'm gonna have to move here. Armita Keyani, and it stars Elnaz, Azgari, Ole Jorgen Farstad, Ashkan, Ghorbani, and Marianne Lauritsen. Oh, got that right. So it is set in Norway, and you have this young Iranian couple who are new to this small village. One day, there's a knock on their door, and they are visited by a couple of Jehovah's Witnesses. So, surprisingly enough, they invite them into the house, and they talk, to have a chat. Now the man of the Iranian couple, don't know if they're married or not. He's more enthusiastic about this. He's quite keen to practice his Norwegian, so that's his sort of motivation. The woman thinks they're crazy, but somehow they are invited back, and it could have happened more than once. We don't know. And ultimately, the woman sort of gets fed up, and she wants the guy to do something about it, and he does. He improvises on the spot, and well, it's kind of open ended, the ending, but we can probably surmise that his plan worked. It's very simple, a light comedy. Like a lot of the very best comedies or films, I should say. It's just one setting, one room or two, just in one house anyway, and just good acting, good script. And that's kind of it. I'll see what you guys think about it.
Do you know what I really liked about this? It's a real no budget film, but
Yeah.
it's a no budget location used very well. It's
Yeah.
like this is an example of, because sometimes people in making no budget films, you want 10 million locations and it's outside, and it just doesn't. You can just tell the budget's been stretched. But with this, it was literally just inside a kitchen, and very simple setup. And I loved the acting in it. The acting was very good, and the bit of humor. And like there's a lot of these, you see these films sometimes with Jehovah's Witnesses come to the door. And I like the way they kind of flipped it. They made the Jehovah's Witnesses feeling uncomfortable. So I like that kind of premise. And they had a great, there's a scene in it I really liked with the argument. They're speaking, I think they're from Iran, so probably Farsi or some language like that. And they're just saying really nice things about, oh, I'll have some candy later, but the Jehovah's Witnesses thinks they're having a vicious row. I thought it was very clever. I really liked it, and yeah, it was definitely a no budget film, and you could tell it wasn't as polished as certain high budget films with a lot of money invested in them. But I still really enjoyed it, and it was great use of location, great acting, and a really nice and kind of simple narrative, a simple comedy, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was a lot of fun. It started off a bit slow, but and I feel like it might have been a little over directed in some ways, of like, okay, now do this, say that kind of thing. But then once it got going, it was actually a lot of fun for me. And it's funny because I actually had this idea. I even pulled it out in my little notebook here, which, is you can see, is quite abused, of film ideas. And I had an idea of what would happen if you actually invited the Jehovah's Witness inside the house, and how that would go. And they did it brilliantly in this film, because like with me, I was having a hard time finding the hook that would make it interesting. And they did it perfect with the language barrier of basically playing it up as like, okay, they don't really understand, slightly understand, they're having a conversation that the Jehovah's Witnesses don't get. So that was a lovely way to do that. And I also like the awkwardness as well. You mentioned it as well. When, especially when they're first sitting there, and just you kind of get these pauses and the awkward like conversations, because the Jehovah's Witnesses, and they even said it, they're like, we're not used to being invited in, and you're being so nice to us.
Like, do you eat
Stuff.
rice or something? They said I was very kind of so
Yeah.
awkward to say
Yeah,
that. Like,
exactly. Well, yeah, and some of the questions, oh, so you're from Iraq? No, Iran. You know, like
yeah,
that kind of, and it's like those awkward conversation bits was a lot of fun. I didn't quite get fully his motivation. I think you're right. Maybe it was, yeah, learning the language or whatever it was, but to keep it going. But yeah, it was a brilliant take on this idea that I had and couldn't work out. So
yeah,
props to the
Yeah.
filmmaker on this for coming to a solution.
Yeah. And like you're right, like the acting was great, and a lot of it was just sort of a look or a glance. So, yeah, it was more of what wasn't being said than what was being said. Um, and I think there was a kind of a subtle kind of a message there as well, because um, like the Iranian couple were really probably the most normal people there. Like there was this little story at the beginning about him talking to the next door neighbor, and she kind of thought he was asking for money, and then she slammed the door in his face, so we can assume she was Norwegian. So I think it was sort of it was just kind of inverting like this notion that um that maybe we expected them to be, I don't know, like the fact that they're not religious, for instance, that they're Jehovah's Witness thought that they were naturally going to be religious because they're from,
yeah. That's what
and
you assume. If you're Iranian, you think they'd
yeah,
be religious. Like
yeah,
that's all we all assume, really, don't we? But it was just
exactly.
interesting.
So it was kind of challenging our prejudices in a way that, and we as an audience would identify with them, that couple, probably more than anybody in that film. So it really presents this idea that, like, these are just a normal couple, and there's no reason why they shouldn't be. But I think it was definitely a message that they were trying to get out there.
Yeah, and I love films that do that, that they have that message, but it's subtle and it's
Mhm.
not in your face. You see it, and you're like, oh, this is good. This is making me think about this. And you're like, yeah, okay, we probably potentially would assume that this is a couple that immigrated because of some, Middle Eastern war, or they're being persecuted in some way because of their devout religion. So there's all these assumptions that you could make. And yeah, they are the most normal people in this film, which is a great way to do it, because I don't feel preached to, which makes me
Yeah, and that's
like
what
it
I loved
more.
about it because it's weird. It's an interesting film because in another film they'd be showing those scenes of them planning to do this, or they'd be showing the scenes where, oh, that's why I left Iran, and that's why I'm here. But they didn't need to put any of that in because they trusted
Yeah.
the material. It was just there. You filled in the blanks. Like I think he was the guy coming with the plan. You can tell by her look, by the way she's looking at him and the other people. And it's I love that you didn't need to have those scenes in it. They just trusted the material, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was great too because you didn't know where it was going.
Mm,
Like the throughout the whole film, I'm like, where are they going with this? Like,
yeah.
and then he gets up and does the dancing thing, and you're like, okay,
It's so
wasn't expecting
awkward.
that. And
Yeah.
like,
And you're
so
kind of
it
cringing.
was
I thought he was
great.
going to kiss her or something, kiss
Uh-huh.
the girl, or I thought they were kind of going to be like cannibals, or it's going to turn into a
Something.
horror film or
Yeah,
something, you know?
yeah. Awkwardness works great like that.
Doesn't
Uh,
it?
and I did like the ending because it was very deadpan, like because you
Yeah,
expected a
yeah.
completely different reaction from the woman. Like, yeah, and they just sat down and finished their meal, and you know,
Mm,
uh, and that was more or less it. Like, he just said one thing, and it was just really nice little kind of
yeah.
deadpan finish.
Mm.
Um, but I did think, like, there was one line she used in the film, and when they were coming back, and she said that they're just using us, in meaning the Jehovah's Witnesses. But I thought it was the other way around. Like, they were the ones that using the Jehovah's Witnesses,
Yeah.
just to practice their Norwegian.
Yeah, totally.
It's very good Norwegian because like it's not a language that is similar to English or anything, so it's just an interesting thing. Yeah.
I actually I thought though the Iranian guy, when he was speaking English,
Mhm.
I thought it was a bit fake, actually.
Okay, interesting.
I could be wrong about that, but I thought he was trying to make it sound as if he had difficulty speaking English.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I didn't think about that, but yeah, maybe he's normally speaks
Yeah, he
fluently
probably
very
speaks fluent
easily.
English.
He's like, gotta sound like I can't speak it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Nice.
Mhm.
But that
Hmm.
was it. I mean, like, it's not in every other respect. It
Yeah.
was a lovely little film.
Yeah. I don't like the ending bit too with the credits, the way they did the credits versus just going to a
Yeah.
black screen and stuff.
Yeah, and you just kind of like the aftermath of that awkwardness was still lingering in the air. And
Yeah.
like that's with the credits, you kind of felt that. It was nearly
Mhm.
like I shouldn't be here anymore. Do you know, I shouldn't be looking at them. I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
It was so well done, like that awkwardness, what they created.
Yep. A lot of fun. All right. Well, should we get to ratings, Claire?
So for me, it was a perfect example of how to make a no budget film. Really great acting, a very simple but very effective script. So I'm going to give it 4 stars.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm kind of on a toss up between 4 and 5. I don't know why I shouldn't give it a 5, but I feel like it deserves a 4, and I'm not really too sure why, because I do think it probably deserves a 5. So I'm going to go 4.5.
No. All right. Yeah, I thought it was just a perfect short film, well written, acted, all the rest, and quite funny. And I give it 4 stars.
There we go. All right, no budget audience. You heard it here. We really enjoyed this film. It's called Welcome Home. You can find it on Vimeo, I believe, right? And so check it out. Let us know what you think. You can always reach us on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook at No Budget Show, or just leave a comment if you're watching this on YouTube. And until next time, we'll see you later and goodbye.
But